The holographic projector hummed to life in the grand chamber of the Galactic Council, casting a soft blue glow across the faces of 200 different species representatives. Ambassador Zixtal, a crystalline being from the Luminar system, floated forward, their facets catching and refracting light in nervous patterns. Esteemed colleagues, Zixtal began, their voice resonating through the chamber's translation matrix, I stand before you today to present the most comprehensive guide to human interaction ever compiled. As we all know, the incident at Station Delta 9 last cycle has made this necessary. A ripple of murmured agreement passed through the assembly. Everyone remembered the birthday party incident, as it had come to be known. Who could have predicted that surprising a human with a sudden gathering of various alien species would result in both a defensive combat response and an immediate attempt to feed cake to everyone present? Humans, Zixtal continued, their crystalline form shifting to display relevant data, are perhaps the most contradictory species we have encountered in our 10,000 cycles of space exploration. They are simultaneously the most terrifying and the most endearing creatures in known space. The main display activated, showing footage of a human female cooing at a Voraxian war beast, a creature that could tear through battleship armor while scratching behind its ears. The war beast, to everyone's continued amazement, was wagging its spiked tail. Our first mistake was assuming that human responses could be predicted based on logical parameters. They cannot. Humans operate on what they call gut feelings, a concept that took our best xenobiologists 3 years to even begin to understand. Zixtal's form sparkled with amusement as they displayed the next set of data. For instance, humans will respond with aggressive defense mechanisms when confronted with small arachnoid species barely the size of their palm, yet will attempt to befriend creatures 10 times their size with documented lethal capabilities. Their risk assessment protocols appear to be, by any reasonable standard, completely random. The chamber filled with the various sounds of species expressing confusion. A Mendelian raised its eyebrow stalks. But surely there must be some pattern. Oh, there is, Zixtal replied, their crystal structure pulsing with excitement. Humans operate on a principle we've termed vibes, an entirely unscientific method of evaluation that somehow proves remarkably accurate in crisis situations. They can often sense danger or friendship before our most sophisticated equipment can detect it. The display shifted to show various successful first contact scenarios. We've discovered that the key to not triggering human defense responses lies in understanding their peculiar social cues. For example, wearing what they call business casual clothing can reduce their initial stress response by 47%. Adding what they term accessories, functionally useless decorative items, can further reduce tension by an additional 23%. A hexapodian diplomat raised 3 of its limbs. Is it true that humans can form pack bonds with inanimate objects? Absolutely, Zixtal confirmed, projecting an image of a human crying over a damaged spacecraft. They name their vehicles, talk to their plants, and form emotional attachments to primitive cleaning robots. This capability for emotional connection, while initially baffling, has proven to be one of their greatest strengths in diplomatic relations. The presentation continued as Zixtal displayed various charts and graphs. Our research has shown that human comfort levels increase dramatically when alien species display what they consider relatable behaviors. Something as simple as pretending to drink their coffee beverage while making facial expressions of satisfaction can increase diplomatic success rates by 82%. As the first session drew to a close, Zixtal's crystalline form glowed with earnest intensity. Remember, colleagues, humans are not merely another spacefaring species. They are a paradox wrapped in contradictions and sealed with illogical emotional responses. And yet, perhaps most surprisingly, these very traits have made them some of our most valuable allies in the galaxy. The chamber lights began to brighten, signaling the end of the first session. Zixtal prepared to conclude their presentation, but not before sharing one final observation. And whatever you do, never, ever tell them something is impossible. They take it as a personal challenge, and somehow, they usually win. The chamber reconvened after a brief recess, during which several delegates were observed attempting to mimic human coffee-drinking behaviors with varying degrees of success. Zixtal's crystalline form shimmered with what the assembled species had learned to recognize as suppressed amusement. Now, they continued, their facets refracting light in scholarly patterns, we must address perhaps the most fascinating aspect of human behavior, their remarkable capacity for pack bonding, or as they call it, making friends. The main display flickered to life, showing various scenarios of human interaction with different species. Humans, Zixtal explained, will form emotional attachments to virtually anything that they perceive as having even the slightest potential for reciprocal interaction. This includes, but is not limited to, other species, artificial intelligences, plants, rocks with faces drawn on them, and in one particularly noteworthy case, a malfunctioning waste disposal unit that made sounds reminiscent of what humans call singing. A ripple of confused whistles and clicks echoed through the chamber. A Valyrian ambassador, their tentacles twisting in puzzlement, raised an appendage. But surely this presents a security risk. How can they maintain proper threat assessment protocols with such indiscriminate bonding tendencies? Zixtal's form brightened. An excellent question. This brings us to what we've termed the human paradox of protection. While humans will indeed form attachments to potentially dangerous entities, they simultaneously maintain an impressive threat assessment capability. However, this assessment is often overridden by what they term cuteness or friendliness. The display showed footage of a human approaching the Thoraxian spine beast, a creature notorious for its territorial aggression. The human was making high-pitched sounds and offering what appeared to be treats. Remarkably, the spine beast's defensive posture relaxed, and it began making similar sounds in return. This incident, Zixtal noted, led to the first-ever domestication of a Thoraxian spine beast. The human in question, when asked about the obvious dangers, simply replied, "But look at those eyes. Who's a good boy? Yes, you are." The chamber erupted in a mixture of amazement and concern. A quantumite representative phased into visibility. But how do we predict which humans will bond with which entities? There must be some pattern. Unfortunately, Zixtal responded, their crystal structure pulsing with what might have been exasperation, human bonding patterns appear to be entirely random. We've documented cases where humans have formed deep emotional attachments to everything from dangerous predators to malfunctioning cleaning robots. The only consistent factor is their tendency to assign personalities to these entities. The display shifted to show a series of human living quarters across various space stations. Observe how humans personalize their environments. They create what they call homes, not just living spaces, but emotional territories that they fill with objects and beings they've bonded with. This behavior extends to their workspaces, their vehicles, and even their communication devices. A particularly striking image appeared, a human space station manager's office, filled with plants, holographic images, and what appeared to be a small collection of rocks with googly eyes glued to them. This tendency towards emotional attachment and personalization has led to some unexpected diplomatic advantages, Zixtal continued. Once a human forms a bond with a representative of another species, they become fiercely protective and loyal. This has resulted in numerous successful interventions in potentially hostile situations. The display showed footage of a human diplomat physically placing themselves between two warring species, armed with nothing but what they call a PowerPoint presentation about friendship. However, Zixtal warned, their crystalline form darkening slightly. This same capacity for attachment can lead to what humans call mama bear mode if they perceive a threat to something or someone they've bonded with. We have documented cases of humans achieving seemingly impossible feats when protecting their friends. The chamber grew quiet as footage played of a human lifting a crashed shuttle to rescue a trapped alien child. The shuttle was later determined to weigh several times what a human should have been able to lift. This brings us to our most important recommendation regarding human pack bonding. Zixtal concluded, "If you find yourself in regular contact with humans, it is nearly inevitable that they will attempt to form a friendship bond with you. Our advice is simple: accept it. Fighting against human friendship attempts only makes them try harder, often employing what they call charm offensives, a barrage of social interactions, gifts, and what they term inside jokes, until resistance becomes futile." A mechanoid delegate raised their optical sensor. "But what if we don't understand their attempts at bonding?" Zixtal's form sparkled with what might have been fondness. "That's the remarkable thing about humans. They don't require you to understand. They will happily explain their customs, adapt to your communication methods, and even create entirely new ways of interacting. Their determination to make friends is, quite possibly, their most formidable characteristic." As the second session drew to a close, Zixtal added one final observation. "Remember, colleagues, when a human attempts to bond with you, they are offering not just friendship, but inclusion in what they consider their family. And while this may seem illogical or unnecessary to many of us, I can assure you, based on extensive research and personal experience, that having a human consider you family is one of the most advantageous positions one can occupy in the galaxy." After a nutritional break, during which several delegates attempted to master the human art of small talk, the chamber reconvened. Zixtal's crystalline form now projected what the assembled species had learned to recognize as a more serious configuration. "We must now address one of the most crucial aspects of human behavior," Zixtal began, their voice resonating with increased gravity. "The human response to perceived threats, which we have termed the Triple F protocol: fight, flight, or friend." The main display activated, showing a complex neural mapping of human stress responses. Unlike most species who have evolved with clear binary response patterns to danger, humans have developed a fascinating third option. When confronted with a potential threat, they might choose to fight, they might choose to flee, or, in what continues to baffle our xenobiologists, they might attempt to befriend the very thing that threatens them. The chamber filled with murmurs of confusion. A hive mind representative spoke through its collective voice. "This seems highly inefficient for survival. How have they not gone extinct?" "Quite the contrary," Zixtal responded, their facets gleaming. "This adaptability has proven to be one of their greatest evolutionary advantages. Consider the case of the Earth canine, now one of their most loyal companion species. According to human historical records, they literally befriended their predators into becoming allies." The display showed historical footage of wolves gradually evolving into domestic dogs, alongside modern images of humans treating these descendants of apex predators like infant offspring. "But this tendency extends far beyond earthbound evolution," Zixtal continued. "Observe this footage from first contact scenarios across the galaxy." The display shifted to show various encounters between humans and alien species. In this instance, Zixtal highlighted a particular recording. The human ambassador was confronted by a drachnid warrior in full threat display. Instead of responding with either aggression or retreat, the human asked about the warrior's decorative armor, complimented their impressive height, and somehow ended up sharing what they call coffee and donuts within the same solar rotation. The chamber erupted in a mixture of amazement and disbelief. A quantum collective representative phased into visibility. "But surely there must be limits to this behavior." "One would think so," Zixtal replied, their crystal structure pulsing with what might have been amusement. "However, we have yet to find them. Humans have attempted to befriend everything from microscopic organisms to gas giant consciousness clouds. Their criteria for potential friendship appears to be simply, does it exist? Yes, then it can be a friend." The display shifted to show various human defensive postures. However, this should not lead you to underestimate their capability for self-defense. Humans maintain impressive combat abilities alongside their friendship protocols. The key difference is that they prefer to use these abilities to protect others rather than themselves. Footage played of a human placing themselves between a predatory creature and a young alien child. This protective instinct, combined with their friendship tendency, creates what we call the guardian paradox. Humans will risk their own safety to protect not just their own species, but anything they've formed an attachment to, which, as we've established, could be virtually anything. A mechanoid delegate raised their processing unit. How do we determine which response a human will choose in any given situation? That, Zixtal admitted, their form dimming slightly, remains one of the great mysteries of human behavior. However, we have identified several key factors that influence their decision-making process. The display showed a complex flowchart titled Human Response Prediction Matrix. First, the presence of potentially threatened others. Humans are significantly more likely to choose aggressive response patterns when protecting something else. Second, the perceived intention of the threat. Humans are more likely to attempt friendship if they believe the threatening entity is acting out of fear or misunderstanding rather than malice. Zixtal paused, their crystal structure refracting light in thoughtful patterns. Perhaps most importantly, humans appear to have an almost supernatural ability to detect what they call good vibes and bad vibes, an intuitive threat assessment system that continues to defy our most sophisticated analysis. The display showed footage of a human refusing to enter a seemingly safe space minutes before it experienced catastrophic decompression, followed by the same human happily walking into what appeared to be an obviously dangerous situation that turned out to be completely benign. Our research has shown that these intuitive assessments, while appearing random or even foolish to outside observers, have a remarkable accuracy rate. This has led to the development of what we call the Human Intuition Protocol. When a human expresses a strong feeling about a situation, regardless of how illogical it may seem, it is advisable to take that feeling seriously. A hive mind representative buzzed in confusion. But how do we protect ourselves from humans who choose the aggressive response? Zixtal's form brightened considerably. The most effective strategy, paradoxically, is to demonstrate openness to friendship. Humans are significantly less likely to maintain aggressive responses when presented with opportunities for peaceful interaction. However, they added, their tone growing serious. It is crucial to understand that while humans prefer friendship, they are incredibly formidable when forced into combat. The display showed footage of human military capabilities, causing several delegates to shift uncomfortably in their environmental suits. But remember, Zixtal continued, humans would rather share what they call memes than missiles. They prefer to exchange cultural practices rather than threats. In fact, they have developed entire diplomatic protocols around what they call cultural exchange programs, essentially formalized friendship rituals. As the third session approached its conclusion, Zixtal's form pulsed with earnest intensity. Remember, colleagues, when dealing with humans, never assume their friendly overtures indicate weakness. Rather, understand that they offer friendship first, because they are fully aware of their capability for effective defense if friendship is refused. As they say in their own diplomatic circles, speak softly and carry a big stick. Though they vastly prefer to use that stick for playing fetch with their various befriended species rather than combat. As the chamber's environmental systems adjusted to accommodate the varying needs of its diverse occupants, Zixtal's crystalline form shifted to display what the assembled delegates had come to recognize as their teaching configuration. We now arrive at perhaps the most complex aspect of human behavior, Zixtal began, their facets refracting light in contemplative patterns. Human emotions, a force so powerful it has literally altered the course of stellar events. The main display activated, showing a complex neural map of human emotional responses. Unlike most species who operate on a limited spectrum of emotional responses, humans possess what we have termed infinite emotional recursion. They can feel emotions about emotions, have feelings about their feelings, and generate seemingly endless layers of emotional complexity. A logical collective representative raised their probability matrix. This seems highly inefficient. How do they function with such chaos in their neural patterns? Remarkably well. Actually, Zixtal responded, their form brightening. This emotional complexity, while appearing chaotic, provides humans with unprecedented adaptability and problem-solving capabilities. Consider the phenomenon they call spite. The display showed various instances of humans accomplishing seemingly impossible tasks purely because someone suggested they couldn't. Humans can literally convert negative emotions into productivity. They have been known to achieve revolutionary breakthroughs in science and technology simply because someone told them their goals were unattainable. The chamber filled with murmurs of disbelief. A hive mind delegate buzzed questioningly. But surely this emotional volatility makes them unreliable allies. Quite the opposite, Zixtal countered. Human emotional investment makes them extraordinarily reliable allies. Once they've committed to a cause or relationship, they display remarkable loyalty. However, this same trait makes them formidable opponents if betrayed. The display shifted to show footage from the infamous Proxima incident, where a single human's emotional response to a betrayal led to the complete restructuring of galactic trade agreements. What makes human emotions particularly noteworthy is their infectious nature. They possess an unprecedented ability to transmit emotional states to other species, even those with entirely different neurological structures. A quantum being phased into visibility. Is this some form of psychic ability? We initially considered that possibility. Zixtal acknowledged, their crystal structure pulsing with academic excitement. However, the mechanism appears to be more complex. Humans emit what we call the emotional resonance fields, a combination of subtle behavioral cues, pheromones, and what they term vibes that can influence the emotional states of those around them. The display showed various species responding to human emotional states. A drachnid warrior crying during a human movie night, a hive mind colony developing individual preferences after prolonged human exposure, and a quantum being manifesting a physical form just to participate in a human group hug. This emotional resonance has profound implications for interspecies relations, Zixtal continued. Humans don't just experience emotions, they actively share them, often unconsciously. This has led to what we call the emotional revolution in galactic society. The display showed statistics indicating a 300% increase in interspecies social gatherings since human integration into galactic society. Perhaps most remarkably, humans have introduced concepts that many species had never considered necessary. Friendship beyond strategic alliance, love beyond reproductive utility, and fun as a legitimate pursuit. A mechanoid delegate raised their processing unit. How do we protect our logical processes from this emotional influence? Zixtal's form shimmered with what might have been amusement. That's the fascinating part. Most species, after exposure to human emotions, don't want to be protected from them. The experience of human emotional range appears to be addictive is not quite the right word. Enriching, perhaps. The display showed footage of various species voluntarily participating in human emotional customs, celebration rituals, comfort behaviors, and even recreational activities. What we've discovered is that human emotions, while initially appearing chaotic and inefficient, actually serve as a sophisticated processing system for handling complex situations. Consider their concept of gut feelings, intuitive emotional responses that often process information faster than conscious thought. Our studies have shown that human emotional instincts have an accuracy rate that defies statistical probability. The chamber grew quiet as Zixtal displayed data from various crisis scenarios where human emotional responses had led to unexpectedly positive outcomes. What makes humans truly remarkable is not just their capacity for emotion, but their ability to channel these emotions productively. They can transform fear into courage, anger into determination, and confusion into curiosity. However, Zixtal cautioned, their form dimming slightly, this emotional capacity does require careful consideration in diplomatic situations. Humans can experience multiple, sometimes contradictory emotions simultaneously. They call this being complicated, a state that many other species find difficult to comprehend. The display showed a human experiencing what they called happy tears, crying from joy rather than distress. Learning to navigate human emotions is crucial for successful interaction. The good news is that humans are generally very willing to explain their emotional states, often in great detail, through a process they call venting or heart-to-heart conversations. As the fourth session approached its conclusion, Zixtal's form pulsed with earnest intensity. Remember, colleagues, human emotions are not a weakness to be tolerated, but a strength to be understood. Their emotional complexity has allowed them to survive conditions that would have destroyed more logical species, solve problems that pure reason couldn't approach, and create bonds that transcend conventional understanding of alliance and cooperation. In the end, Zixtal concluded, their crystal structure glowing warmly, it is perhaps this very emotional nature that makes humans such valuable members of our galactic community. They feel deeply, care profoundly, and love fiercely. And they're more than willing to teach the rest of us how to do the same.